What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Optimize You. I am Alex. This is my boy Matt. This is the Starting Sloppy series. So this is our Thursday series going forward. And basically, we're just going to be talking about starting sloppy in different areas. We're going to have guests on with different jobs and different career paths, whatever that may be. Matt and myself are going to hop on like we are today and just talk about different topics and how we kind of started sloppy. And this is the first one that we kind of thought about. It's all around dating. We both got into the dating world around the same time. What was it for you, Matt? Was it like mine was at the about before
I was after you.
Thanksgiving. It was before Thanksgiving. Then I brought it up to you, and then you got into it, and now we're kind of at different stages in it, but we've gone through the process and both seen success, right? So this is what we figured would be a good one for anyone out there who's looking to get into dating, maybe thinking about getting back out there, whatever it may be. We're just going to run through everything from kind of how we started, different first date ideas, like different things to consider, how to go about it, and everything that we've had, struggles we've come about, right? Like all these different things, and hopefully you find some value with it. But first off, Matt, how's it going, brother?
Good, man. I dig talking about this one because we are living it, and we're both at different stages right now. So it's cool to share our experiences. Dating for me, if people that know me, I was in a relationship for a long time, so the dating is fairly newer to me. So and I'll tell you what, starting in 2023, transitioning into 2024. Things are different now, man. Like things are different today. So I'm anxious to share some insight and give some feedback and kind of just go back and forth on this one, man. How about you?
I love it, dude. Yeah, no, as you know, I mean, first off, I think that a lot of our conversations recently for the last month and a half have been like, what's going on in your dating life, dude? Like we've just kind of been like talking about, like diving back in, like what's the scoop today? Like, it's like we're so heavily involved in each other's dating lives at this point. So it's good. But, as you know, like it's worked out really, really well for me. Found like the most amazing woman that I've ever met. And it's been amazing here since the start of December, right? We've been going out for 2 months now, a little over 2 months. And it's been as quickly of an accelerated just relationship as I would ever imagine. Like we've just kind of hung out, gone on tons and tons of dates. Probably in 2 months, we've maybe at least every other day on average hung out or went on dates, which is pretty wild.
I think you set a record, bro. You set a record. I think it was, and in 30 days, how many? Was it 30 dates in 30 days or something?
No, it was like, in the first 30 days, I think we had gone on somewhere in the 15 to 20.
50. Days. Okay. Yeah. That's what it was.
It was something crazy. That's when two people like each other, right? Like a little bit, right? And so like, it's good. And, and you're at a little different. So if you could fill people in, I guess, on how your dating situation is going on right now, and then we can start from there.
It's good. I feel like I'm still brand new into the process. Have met some amazing people in the process, which is phenomenal, and it's new to me, man. It's new. It's interesting. It's almost like a learning curve. It's like learning a new skill, right? And so I found myself going, okay. There were some things that I found out when I went on my first couple of dates that I was like, I didn't know that was a thing, right? Like, so I'll give you an example. I went out on my very first date, and the experience was awesome. It was very cool. And she noticed that I opened the door for her. She like something very small, right? Like, oh, I noticed how you opened the door for me. I also noticed when we walked by the street, you put me on the inside, like, and you kind of protected me that way, just like subconsciously, right? And that's always been ingrained in me. But I guess nowadays she was explaining to me that like guys don't really do that, or it's hit or miss if they do, like as far as opening the door and being a gentleman, things like that. And then I was like, oh man, that sucks. I thought I kind of just took it for granted. Like that's how my mom raised me, but then she was like, you might run into some girls, especially nowadays, where they're very strong, like on the feminine side, meaning like, they want to feel more empowered. So they may not respect that you open the door for them. And I was like, that's kind of crazy to me. I was kind of taken back by that. I was like, what? Like, so I just, and she's like, some women like opening their own door. And she's like, I love that you do it for me, but just to kind of give you a heads up, like, don't be surprised if you see that. And I was like, oh man. So then it made me think, like, then do I stop what I'm doing if I know that that's that kind of girl and that's her perspective? So I was kind of in this like limbo of like, do I do it? Do I not? And then I was like, no, you know what? I'm just going to be me. And if that person or that individual, if I do happen to run into somebody that, doesn't like the energy or doesn't feel like it's the right place or time or feels like I'm disrespecting them or something, then that's probably not the person for me. That's the way I looked at it. So I don't know. Have you run into that, man? That was something that was like, that was a curveball for me.
Dude, that you got me baffled just from that kind of like I mean I'm the same as you. Like I think the guy should open the door, like do all the things, right? Like be respectful, like all of that. Like that's common sense in my opinion. Honestly, it's like just, that's how you do it. So I don't even get that. Like, why would somebody be pissed off if you open their door? But I never saw that. I did hear a lot of like from just about every woman that I went on a date with, like horror stories of guys, right? Like so, like it doesn't surprise me that like it's harder to date these days because I think there's a lot of guys out there that are just really fucking weird and doing some weird stuff, right? And like creepy. And
Yeah.
like, because I heard a lot of really weird stories. People
Yeah.
showing up to somebody's house unannounced, right? Like people just like, I don't even know. I don't remember all this stuff, but like every woman that I went on a date with basically had
I've heard
another
that too.
story of it.
Multiple women have told me that same
Yeah,
exact thing.
exactly. And so that's like it's tough. And then also you get the thing we talked about this, right? I didn't realize that like how lopsided it is. There's a lot more dudes out there on these dating apps because we both, right, we went through the apps, right? I was mostly on Hinge. I think you said you went through the League a little bit as well. Is that right?
Yeah.
The League and
Yeah.
then
So
Hinge.
at first I downloaded all of them. So I
Yeah.
went Tinder, Hinge. Mind you, this is my first time ever on these things, right? So Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, and then the last one was the League. I kept getting advertisements for it on Instagram, and so I was like, I thought it was something sports related, but then figured out it was a dating app. So I was like, oh, cool. So I had all four of them. Tinder was the first one I deleted. I almost deleted it like in the first couple of days.
Yeah.
It just wasn't user friendly for me. I heard bad things about it. Sounded like it was more just like a hookup app. So I just ended up deleting that one. Bumble, they make you pay for everything. I know people that have amazing success on Bumble, and I found some awesome people on Bumble too. But they limit to what you can see. Like so and so likes you, so you got to do, unless you do the paid version, which I haven't done. I'm assuming they show you everybody that likes you, and you can set your filters a lot stronger. But I just did the free version. But I think the one that I had the most success with, or at least was able to actually set up dates and like have conversations, was Hinge. Hinge was, and I think it was the same for you too, right?
Yeah, I ended up just deleting the other ones at a certain point too. I mean,
Yeah,
Tinder, I think there's a lot of catfishing that happens on Tinder. It's also, in my
yeah.
eyes, more of a hookup app. Bumble, like you said, there's a lot of good stuff. The only thing is, the girl has to message the guy right away,
Oh, that's right.
which
Yeah, yeah,
can be
yeah.
cool, but that like loses the opportunity sometimes, right? Like you might
Mhm.
find somebody, oh, it seems pretty cool. You can't message them, and maybe it just like they probably have so many a lot of the women, the thing is, I was kind of saying like it's so lopsided, right? There's a lot of dudes. So like, what I kind of heard feedback wise from women is that like they're loaded with all these likes, right? Like, so a guy on Hinge might, maybe you got a few a day, right? That come in 2 to 5 a day that roll in likewise. And you're like, you can kind of funnel through them. It's not overwhelming at all. Like absolutely the
Yeah,
opposite actually. And then for
right.
women, it's like 200 likes, right? Like, and
Yeah,
you're trying to
yeah.
funnel through all of these dudes that like you on this app, right? And so it's like overwhelming when it comes to a woman's perspective of it. I can imagine, right? I'm not a
I
woman,
didn't
but
even think about that, but yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that would suck. That'd be super hard. So now they're trying to do all this filtering because there's probably every day, like if you're looking at a spectrum, a dude who's a 5 and then guys who are 10s, it's probably just cluttered with everybody, right? Like guys who look good, guys who are maybe not so good looking, like I mean, and they're just trying to filter through a mess, whereas guys, that's a great point. If there's less women on these apps, the percentages are going to be a lot lower for us, right? So and the other thing too with Bumble is you have to match with the person too, right? Like so after assuming that you guys both like each other and you both match, then it goes to the girl, right? The girl has to message first. So,
Yes. Yes.
I mean, like I would get notified I would match with somebody and then they just don't even message you. And you're like, oh, all
Yeah.
right. Like,
And then you try to like extend it, right? You can extend it, and
yeah,
so you try to
you
extend
extend.
it, like, and
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
like, but
Yeah.
then they don't
Yeah.
message
I
you
mean,
again.
it happens.
It's yeah, but it's
And I
good. Like,
bet you that's part of it too, right? Like that's part of it is they get so many people that, just trying to filter through the mess, right? So it's like I feel like you could easily get skipped, no problem, or they just flat out don't want to message you, whatever. But
yeah, which is cool.
yeah, yeah,
But I think, kind of going almost even before the start, right? Like we kind of started with that. I thought about something where, like one of the big things for me was that I never really gave myself an opportunity with dating, right? Like it was just like there was always something else in there. There was sports, right? Sports are more important. Business was more important. Like my health and fitness was more important. There was a lot of different things that were more important. And so like whenever I dated in the past, a lot of times it came from like somebody setting me up with somebody like, oh, this would be a perfect person for you, meeting somebody at like a wedding or something like that. You kind of like have these little things, but it was never really a priority. So like it never really led to anything for me, right? I would just fizzle out because, oh, in the end, my health and fitness is more important. Oh, hanging out with like going golfing was maybe more important. Oh, like I'm working, like I got business stuff. I don't have time for that stuff, right? There's all these excuses. And so a little bit before Thanksgiving, I was like, you know what, this is a good time for me to like make this a high priority, like one of the highest priorities. And so like that's where things really changed for me on this side, on the dating side, is that like I was like, you know what, I'm going to put it above just about everything. And I'm going to make it a point that I'm going to try to find that person that I'm looking for. And so I defined it too, right? I defined what kind of person am I looking for? Like, what kind of values do they have? Like, how do they treat other people? Like, all of these different things that I wanted to make sure were top of mind, so that if I found them, I knew, right? And also, like, I think it's just important to do that because I know like sometimes people just date to date, or like, you just think of the attractiveness aspect, which I think is important to be attracted to somebody. But for me, it was a lot more important for me to have somebody who had the similar values to me and wanted kids and wanted, a family and wanted to go in a certain direction in life. So that was kind of one of my first steps, was making it a high priority and then just defining that stuff. Then I downloaded the apps, right? And then I started going on dates, and then, got lucky that like it didn't take me too long to meet my now girlfriend.
yeah. That's awesome. And it's cool that that's the process, right? You changed, you shifted, you made it a priority. I feel like I did the same thing. Like I was like kind of just dabbling in it, kind of getting used to it. Whereas now I would say it's like a priority of mine. And so things have changed. You start to narrow down, what, like you were talking about, like, oh, I'm just going to this girl because she's attractive, or I'm just doing this because she looks really good. And like that only goes so far. But as soon as you prioritize and go, okay, this is what I want, you start to filter through everything else, which makes the process. I mean, you have to do that, right? Like it's inevitable that you have to do that. If you're just looking like, oh, this girl's bad, that she's bad, oh, this one's better. Like, and if you're just doing that, I mean, you could do it, and here's the thing is like, I've gone on dates with girls that were like drop dead gorgeous, but they have a lot of baggage with them too. Like that usually is a thing, right? Like they have, since they are extremely pretty, they have crazy exes. I've talked to multiple girls that had restraining orders against their ex-boyfriends, like some of them ex-fiancés, just like kind of crazy stuff, And it's like, okay, that comes with the territory. You can date a crazy one, like she looks good, but does she check all of these other boxes? If she just checks that one and you're getting distracted by that one, well, you got to kind of open your eyes and go, okay, how worth it is this? Is this something I'm willing to pursue? Do I want to take on all that baggage? You're not just taking that person, you're taking all the baggage that comes with them too. And so, yeah, that's something that you can easily be blinded with. I had to like check myself on a couple of them when I was like, dude, not worth it. Not worth it. Like it looks like it on the surface, right? Trust me, it does. I know. But man, yeah, it comes with a lot of stuff that floats below the radar until it brings itself present, and then you're like, and you try to justify it in your head, like, oh yeah, that's cool, that's not that bad, and you're trying to justify it because she's pretty. You're just like, how much shit are you willing to put up with just because this girl's pretty, right? Like, do you get along with her? Is she somebody that is supportive? Like, is she, you have to like go through all these different things in these different scenarios. Like you were talking, like you and Marissa have had all these conversations, right? Like these super deep, almost, you said you guys have almost had every single conversation. Like those are the conversations that need to be had. And then you can decide if you really like that person or not, like not just on like the first or second date.
Exactly. Yeah. If you keep it surface level, right? And that's what like I kind of, maybe in past like dating, just kind of keep it surface level. And I was more like the higher priority things were like attractiveness, right? Like, and that's not to say, like I said, I think that's like you should really be attracted to somebody, but I think you should be attracted to somebody in like a lot of different ways, right? Like there's a lot of different ways to be attracted to somebody, their physical appearance, like the type of person they are, like how they treat other people, like their family, how they like interact with their family and all these different other things. Like there's a lot of different ways to be attracted to somebody. And so I think that's the key. And yeah, like that's one of the things I was also looking for was like just an honest communication about everything, right? Like just something, it's hard to find, I think, out there. That, and then somebody who just like always, follows through. Because I think like that honest communication piece, like there's a lot of scary conversations that are going to come up in anything, right? And like it's tough to have them, but it's important to like be able to confront those and be comfortable confronting them, because that's how the relationship's going to grow. And then like following through, I just have found that there's minimal people, woman, man, whatever, that follow through on what they say they're going to do, right? Like when you say you're going to do something, that you come through on that. One of the most important things to me is doing that for other people, and also being around people that do that, which is, it's hard. Like there's not a lot of people, like I'm sure you probably can't count a ton of people that like if they say they're going to do it, that they're like, you don't have to worry at all. That they're going to do it, right? There's generally a few people in anybody's life that are that way, but the real ones, and no matter what, like you could probably find somebody outside of the state, right? You could call them, I'm sure everybody kind of maybe knows somebody. You call them and like that they would come down if you needed something, right? Like there's those people out there, and that's, I think, so important. And so
that's super important, man. Yeah. That's deciding like who you're going to, guy or girl, that's deciding like who you want to keep in your circle, who you want to communicate with, like the type of people you want to be around, not just your partner that you're looking for, but like people that you want to associate with, just friends in general, right? Like even family, like which ones are always going to be late to something, which ones who are not going to follow through, which ones are going to just lie through their face and just be like, oh yeah, I'll see you there, we're going to go there, knowing damn well like you're like, okay, chances of them showing up are very slim, or sticking to what they said that they're going to do. Like, I think that, so for you actually looking for that in a partner is super cool, man. Like that's something that gets overlooked. That's something that doesn't really fly, on people's radar and is acknowledged. But I think that's a great key to look for in somebody, in anybody, right? Like anybody you want to talk to and surround yourself with and be part of, and you want them integrated in your life. Like, make sure they have that piece to them. Just like you and I, like, well, hey, dude, we didn't talk for, I don't know, a couple days or whatever. And then we set a time, and there was no like, of course we could have done this, but there was no like, hey bro, are we just double checking to make sure we're good for the podcast tonight? Like, no, we just hop on right after not even talking. And then I see your face on here. I'm like, boom, there we go. We're supposed to be on here at this time. There was no further communication needed. It was just like, nah, bro, I told him I was going to be here, and we're going to show up. And I know the same for you, right? Like, so you got to surround yourself around people like that.
We haven't talked since Sunday. Yeah, and we just showed up on the pod. Like, we just thought midday Sunday. I think I sent you a message. I was like, hey, what day? Tuesday, Thursday is our best for me this week.
It's in the schedule, bro.
You're like, hey, Tuesday, it's in the schedule. I'm like, all right, in my calendar. And then we pop on here without even talking today or yesterday.
Not even a word. Yeah, not even a word. Just like there is that little bit of like, I wonder if he remembered, or like, I wonder if it changed, or do I have the date right? Or so there's no message sent. We just popped on and we're like, oh, yep. All right. Confirmed.
I had no doubts that you were going to be on the podcast.
Like none.
Like it was that was it. But that's it,
cool.
right?
It's cool. You look for that. Yeah.
It's good shit. It's I just over the course of our just doing the pod together, like we've developed such a great relationship with it, right?
Yeah.
Like we talk all the time. I'll call you here and there, like you'll call me, whatever. We kind of just we go back and forth. So I think that's awesome. And also, so like kind of going back though, like so when it comes to starting sloppy with dating, right? We both set the standard of like what we wanted, right? Like we decided, we made it a high priority. I think that's important. If you're starting a dating, make that decide that you're going to put it over other things, right? You might not get the sleep that you once did, right? Like you might sacrifice some of food quality here and there, right? Like you might find yourself eating out a little bit more. It's all good. Like that is what happens when something's a priority, is that other things will suffer a little bit. That doesn't mean it's bad, right? I think that it's all good. Like that's what happens. And so like make it a priority, download the apps, right? Download the apps and don't just look at the attraction level, right? Like look into their profiles a little bit more. And one thing that I did after a little while, I don't know if you did this, I know we talked about it, is that I put in my profile, like looking for something along the lines of like, let's actually like go on a date instead of just messaging on this app all the time. Because I found that like sometimes people didn't even seem to want to go on a date. They just wanted to keep messaging. And I'm like, I'm not here to text. Like I don't even like doing that very much, right? Like I would prefer to, like, I'm more of a call guy myself, a call or FaceTime guy. Like I prefer that. Like I like talking to somebody, but when it comes to the dating, let's get there face to face. Like we're not going to figure out if this is going to work over text, right? We're going to figure out if this works over coffee, over smoothies, over putt-putt, over whatever you decide to do for a first date. And we can talk about that, like options, like things that we did and good ideas and kind of how we view that. But like, I think that is something that was really important to me too, is like, I'm not here to text you. Like I'm here to figure out if this is going to work. I don't want to waste my time if it's not going to work. And so like kind of using their profile to gauge, does this seem like somebody who I might get along with or could potentially want to meet, right? And then let's meet. And so like with Marissa, right, it was just like a 5 texts back and forth. We figured we went to coffee, right? And so like that's like, we were just like, hey, like blah, 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 like how's it going? Da, 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 da. You want to go, like, what are you doing this weekend? Coffee on Sunday. Then we went, right? And so like that's what I kind of preferred. It was at a certain point I realized that most people didn't even seem to want to actually go on a date. They just kind of wanted the validation of the like. Mm-hmm. And so that is what I put a high priority on myself.
And if you're doing that, so if you're somebody who's like, oh man, I don't want to be that person, or I don't want them to be that person, like if they're a super texter and they're just really looking for validation, they don't really want to go on a date. I set a personal rule for myself and go, okay, I need to set up a date within 3 to 10 at the most text messages or messages back and forth. Like if I've sent more than 10 and I don't have a date set up, then I'm dragging it on way too long, right? I try to do it within 3, like pretty damn quick. That's always the goal, but I do no more than 10, let it go. Cause of course, every scenario is different. There might be some small talk in there. But that was a personal goal I set for myself, was like, set this girl up on a date within the first 3, maximum 10 messages, so that's just what I did personally. And it worked really well. And, dude, we should go over, you touched on it a little bit, but we should go over best for what's up.
Well, before we do that, you got to talk about your formula that you used to, because there's a lot of people that are not actually who they say they are on there, right? Like, the thing is, you realize pretty quickly that people put their best foot forward, right? Like
totally,
like doctored photos, like really close up photos. Like there's a lot of that going on. You don't really know what you're going to get all the time when you go on a date, and so like Matt had a good thing that he was telling me about that he would use to kind of vet out if they are the person that they assume to be on the app.
Yeah, I try to move them to the phone as quickly as possible. And the reason for that is because you have ultimate flexibility, especially hopefully they have an iPhone, right? And you have an iPhone, so it makes it easier. But if you don't, then I don't know. I can't help you. But anyways, if you utilize the voice text on these messaging apps, that's really cool too. But I try to get them to the personal phone as quickly as possible. One, it shows trust. You can see how quickly, and this hasn't worked every time because I've also met women that they're hesitant to give you their number, which is totally understandable. You could go Instagram. You could go Instagram handle. For one, they could see, for me, I'm very active on there for my business. So they could see I'm a real person. There's not only pictures, there's mostly videos and reels, and there's stories on my content daily. And like, they can see I'm an actual person. And then I line up with my profile. They can see and hear my voice. And so Instagram's great. If not, what I like to do is I respond to one of their text messages, either with a voice text or a video. And the cool thing is you get to see how they respond. And 9 times out of 10, when you do that, they'll reciprocate if they're a real person, right? Like if you send them a picture or a video or a voice text, and then you ask them a question, they usually respond in whatever form you did it. So if you sent them a video, they'll usually send you a video back, literally just like selfie, like recording yourself, kind of going about your day. And if you get that back, it's a real raw, like, oh, okay, this person's real. They look just like their profile, or they don't, right? Like, and you can see right away. And if they're scared to do it, or they just write back in text, that might be a red flag, right? Unless they're at their job and they're like, hey, I really want to send you this. I can't send one until later, but I'm at my job. That's totally different. But yeah, that has worked great. And it's saved me from like not getting catfished. I know that's happening to people. So that's a little trick and tool that I use. I don't know. Did you start using that too after I told you? Or were you so deep? You were already deep into your thing.
It was already deep. I think I was already.
You were already in it. you already found the one.
Yeah, and so I think I was at that point, but I liked that idea. That's why I wanted you to bring it up, because I think that's a good thing.
Oh yeah,
I did have
super helpful.
I had a few dates that I went on where the person didn't really match their profile pitch on Hinge. So that's, it's one of those things where people, like I said, they'll put their best foot forward. I think it's important to be honest on there, right? Like just be honest, like, just show who you really are. I know it's tough for people because I think that a lot of people are just looking for the validation of just getting the likes. But let's do our like good date ideas, because I think that's just a good thing that we can even potentially end on.
Start with first dates
or first dates.
Yeah, first dates, and then we can kind of progress them from there. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So I learned the hard way, dude. What's that?
I was just going to say, you go ahead, because I know.
I was going to say, I learned the hard way because I thought, again, I haven't dated in so long. So like the first date I went on, immediately invited her to go to dinner, right? Which later found out, like, okay, there's a lot of commitment to that, right? It's almost like interrogation mode too. You're sitting right across from this person. It's higher. It's going to cost more money, right? Because if you're a gentleman, you're obviously going to pay for both. Yeah. And you're kind of bought into this person, and you're not even quite sure. You haven't even met them yet. Right. So my very first date, I was just on dinner, and then I think I was talking to you, and you have some super cool ideas. And then my other buddy said that his ideas were aligning with yours. And I was like, okay, I'm doing this all wrong. Like, don't take her to dinner on the first date. Like, I did that on my first 2. I took them both to dinner until I was like, man, not only is this getting expensive, I don't know if I want to hang out with this girl again. Like, and just the amount of buy-in that I had to do was so high, it was just, and then you were just like, man, here, I'll let you tell yours. Your first dates are great.
Oh, dude, I just think like the big thing for me was just something that's like, you can have a conversation with somebody, right? So coffee was my go-to, or smoothies. So I don't drink. I think a drink is a good move for people too. Like that's kind of in line. Coffee, smoothies are maybe the non-drinking folks drinks, right? Like, and then you got going out for a drink. It's a, low barrier. You can just have a conversation. You don't have to eat while you're doing it. And it can be as long or as short as you want to, right? It's not like a dinner. You're a little bit more in for like potentially an hour and a half, right? Like, or
committed,
depending on where you're going. Like you're locked in, man. You're locked in. Like if you go to coffee, right? If it's not working out, you can just be honest with it, right? It's not working out like 20, 30 minutes like this. I don't see this going anywhere. Like say it in a nice way. I would have to think about how you'd want to say that. I'm not going to give you advice on that. But like you can, like each party can kind of end it there, right? It doesn't have to go any further. And then smoothies, same thing. Like I would go on a walk with somebody with smoothie. I did that a few times. Like go on a walk with a smoothie. It's a great thing. Like you're moving, you're doing something. those are kind of my main first two dates that I went on. Did you have any other ones that you kind of added in?
Dude, ever since you told me that, that's been my go-to. Coffee's been my go-to. Such a low barrier to entry. If they don't drink coffee, which I have had on scenarios, like you said, the smoothie one's great. Um, and even just going for a walk and doing that,
Yeah.
that's awesome too. Those are all low barrier to entry. They're very cost efficient, and you're not locked into 60 to 90 minutes right out off the bat, like how you are with a dinner. I just always assumed that the first one was dinner. That's my fault for not, I haven't dated in a really long time. So I just assumed like, oh, that's the thing. And then I talked to you and I talked to my other buddy and it's like, you're like, nah, man, just coffee, bro. And so ever since then, it's just like coffee's been my go-to, but not everybody drinks coffee either. So, and the cool thing is like, another thing is like, you could go to like a pastry place that has both. So like they have, like, snack pastry type things. If they're not a coffee drinker, if they're not a tea drinker, there's other things there for them to get, which is great. But yeah, I've done very similar as you on the first dates. Those are great ideas. Those have worked out phenomenal.
Just anything where you can have a conversation with somebody. I mean, the first date's all
Yeah.
about just getting to know the person. Do you see a potential second date? Right. That's kind of what I view it as. Like, know enough about the person. Do you have a good vibe with them? Does it seem like there's maybe compatibility there? Do you feel like there's potential that this could go somewhere? And is it worth going on a second date? Right.
Right.
I think that's kind of the key. And then we move into other date ideas. Like, there's tons of
Yeah.
other date ideas. The second date that I went on with Marissa was a hike. Now that's
Sweet.
like, she trusted me enough to go on a hike with me, I guess, second date. Like, don't do that the first date. Like, that's like kind of a weird, I guess, first date, I think, with somebody, because it's like
Yeah.
you're out in the wilderness, right? Like, if
Yeah.
you're
That
a
was a little
weird
sketchy.
fucking dude, like I wouldn't want somebody to go on that. I think that's a
Right.
bit of an odd first date. But it's cool, but it's just like if I was a woman, I wouldn't want to go on that date with a guy, the first date. I would want to know him a little bit more before I did that. Putt putt. I love that. I did that one as well. Dinner, obviously down the road as you get, like, that's a great, like, second, like, potentially second date, third date, fourth date, whatever, dinner, something like that. Um, I mean, there's so many options you can do, like going on a walk, going on a hike. You did a workout, didn't you? You worked out with
Did a
somebody.
workout. Yeah, you could do a workout. I did axe throwing was another one. I had never
Oh,
done
that's a
that
good
before.
one.
That was
That's a
super
good one.
fun. I'm more of like an interactive, like let's do something. Like dinner's cool. Like it's great. But I almost save that for somebody that you almost like a third or fourth date. Like I like to do the second one of like interacting. Cause again, it's not like you're actually physically doing something, and so I feel like you can engage and interact with that person on a different level than you can if you're just sitting across from them and just having conversation, right? Like for me, it's more fun to, and you're not staring across from somebody like looking into their eyes the whole time. Most of the time you're like either side by side or like depending on what you're doing. Same thing with a hike. You're probably in tandem, front or back, or you're on the side if you guys are walking. Axe throwing, you're interchanging, you're like going back and forth. So putt putt mini golf was super fun too, like you did. Like that stuff's fun, dude. It's interactive. You get to see how they are in the real world, like operating and having fun. And to me, you learn more about people that way.
Yeah, dude.
So
I agree,
yeah.
man. Yeah, it's good. It's a good way to do it, and also you can talk about the activity. So, like,
Yeah.
sometimes early on there can be a little more awkward conversation potentially, right?
Yeah,
Like,
for
you're
sure.
kind of getting to know each other, and so if you're doing an
Yeah.
activity, you can talk about the activity too. Like, it
Yeah.
gives you more operating or opportunities for talking points, right? As
Totally.
opposed to like you're like, it's just, there's sometimes that choppy. It's just two people getting to know each other, a little bit nervous potentially. It can be a little weird right away, and so like that's one of those things I think that helps. Like the
Yeah.
hike,
Oh,
you can talk about
yeah,
the
for
hike.
sure.
That's cool, like cool view, like, oh, this like kind of sketchy here at this area, isn't it? Like, it's just like,
The chances of there being dull moments or quiet conversation when you're actually doing something where you're moving and being interactive is very low versus when you're at dinner, man, you almost find yourself not listening to the person to like make sure that you have a question or something in your arsenal to like fill up dead space, which then now you're not even really engaging with the person, right? Like you're saying something to respond just to say something versus like, let me actually answer what they're interested in or say something based off what they just said. Like, so you can find yourself, if you're really good at it, you can stay in the moment. But a lot of times when you're nervous, you'll find yourself like coming up with the next question. You're just like waiting for them to finish their shit so that you could spit your question out, right? And like fill up the space. So if you find yourself doing that, that's a tough position to be in. I've been in that before and I try to snap out of it. And when I find myself in it, I'm just like, okay, just fully engage and embrace in what it is that they're saying and just listen to them right now. That's the thing that you guys can do. If you guys are not sure, you find like that awkward silence, just listen to what they're saying. If you find yourself like overthinking what you're going to say, then you're not engaged in the moment. You're not really listening to them. So that's what I would encourage people to do is like just totally give your all to them and be all ears. Like they will talk and I trust me, you will think of a question or you think of something to say if you are fully engaged and you're listening to them. Like, and that's what I've just found. And then now you're not even worried about the dead silence or that awkward silence or you're trying to fill in space, is because you're fully engaged in the moment. And then that's when everything just flows and conversations can go deeper and you can just be really, really present. I think being present is super key.
Yeah, I like that, man. And also like time helps with that too, right? Like I think there's just that, like I found that with a lot of the dates I went on, like it was good. Like there's, you could tell that there was like compatibility certain times, but then that there was like awkwardness. And then like
Mm-hmm.
at a certain point with Marissa, like it was like that was the case right away, right? There's just a little bit of like, just that two people getting to know each other awkwardness. And like maybe myself in the past, like way back, would have been like, this isn't working, right? Like, but so I would encourage people to like, if you do think this person is cool and that there is potential, like ride it out. And then there's going to be that point in time when most likely that awkwardness is going to go away, right? Like it's just kind of, you start to get more comfortable with them and it moves away. And so that's kind of one thing I would say. Do you have anything else to add to this? Anything else kind of that pops into your head of helping people who are trying to get back into the dating world or maybe new to it, or have been out of the game for a while, whatever it may be?
I think the biggest thing is just setting that criteria for yourself, like your ground rules. Because if you're just going on dates just to date, that's cool if you need to like break the surface and kind of get your feet wet with it. But you'll notice that time is our precious resource, right? Our most precious resource. So make sure you're not wasting it just going on dates just to go on dates. You can if that's what you're doing at first, but eventually you got to slow down and be like, okay, what is it that I'm looking for in a person? And can I reciprocate that? If this is what I'm looking for, am I being that person? If I'm looking for somebody who is respectful and treats their family well, like ask yourself, am I somebody who does that? Do I represent that? And just set your ground rules and be really picky. Like don't just go on dates just because, like we were talking about, because the chick looks good or because their profile looks cool. Like, do they meet your criteria? The stuff that you set when you weren't in an emotional state, like the ground rules that you set that are in black and white, that you wrote down or you jotted down or you have in the back of your head that are your non-negotiables. Does that person meet these, or are you trying to like shape and mold and hope they fit them, but they kind of don't, right? Like be picky on those people. And I think the more picky you are, and never settle, don't be satisfied, then you can really, really start to enjoy the process. And you'll know, like you're in the position right now where like, it'll be a no doubter, right? Quit trying to shape and mold and like make things work. Like you'll know when it works. And so that would be my advice to people is, and have fun, enjoy it. Like don't overthink it. Like it's a fun process. It's really cool.
Yeah, dude. I was going to say, you said it, don't settle. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that you said it, make it a priority, or at least like be honest with yourself about it, right? Like I think that some people will say it's a priority, but then their actions don't line up with it. Line your actions with how much of a priority it is. If you really do want to meet somebody, make it a high priority and understand that other things are maybe going to suffer that haven't suffered for you. And that's cool. And that's going to be, and that's what happens when you move things up and down the list. Right. But yeah, don't set your ground, set what you want, set the person you want, and don't settle for like the less, the people that don't fit that mold. Like there's people out there that are amazing. There are people out there that are amazing and that will hit what you want. Like they are who you are looking for. But if you kind of just pick the first one, you're like, oh, this is close enough, then you're just going to be disappointed and it's probably not going to work out. Right. Like, so I think that's the key. I love that you said that. And, yeah, like I think this was a really good pod. I enjoyed talking about this. It's kind of cool that we're going to be talking about maybe other things and hopefully helping you all out on different topics that we haven't. We've been really in the health, fitness, nutrition realm, mindset as well, for the first 100+ episodes, and now we're kind of venturing into other topics that that we're curious about and that we've been working on and that we've maybe excelled in, and then also that other people that we're going to bring on have excelled in, or have really started sloppy and are moving forward. So I'm really excited to see where this segment of the podcast goes here over the next year, and who we can get on here and who we can help. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch, listen to the podcast. We really do appreciate you. If you did enjoy this and you're new, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss our future episodes. We drop them Tuesdays and Thursdays. And if you're not new, all we ask is you share with a friend. If you know somebody who's getting into dating, this is a great one to share with them. Hopefully they can learn from our experiences, find somebody amazing, and just continue moving forward. So thank you guys so much. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week, and we'll be talking to you soon.